the harrowing 5 hours that the passengers had to witness, had to undergo. The train is finally here at the Delhi railway stations. Anxious relatives, harassed passengers, desperate for this ordeal to be over. There is police deployment at the railway station. There are several uncomfortable questions for the government, the Ministry of Railways and the West Bengal government also to answer here. A large number of journalists also at the railway station. And joining me now is Paulami Saha. Let me take you straight to the New Delhi railway station. Paulami, finally the train arrives in Delhi, but the passengers harassed, their relatives rather anxious here.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of relatives we saw earlier on at the New Delhi railway station who were just pacing up and down in anxious wait really for their relatives to come finally from Bhubaneswar, from Jharkhand really where this accident took place, to finally reach New Delhi. They've had a harrowing time, some traumatic hours that they've spent in captivity by the Maoists yesterday. So obviously a lot of anxiousness over here from the relatives who are waiting, and obviously when the train just arrived, as you must have seen on your screen, they just, the way the passengers just got down from the train, the way they were standing at the doors, waiting to just get down finally, because it has been a very long wait. Those hours that they spent in captivity, obviously they never thought that, they probably will, get out of it unscathed, really unscratched. So now they feel that, they escaped a big accident of sorts, a big incident. They've escaped and they've actually emerged over here without a scratch really, but there's nothing that we can say about the mental trauma and torture that these people have gone through, these 670 passengers that they've witnessed over those harrowing hours that they've spent in captivity when they were held hostage by Maoists. So really a lot of anxious faces over here. A lot of people who were just waiting to get out of the train finally just leave on and get home, get to the respective places that they wanted to get to in New Delhi, because this has been a wait that has been unending for them really, and for the relatives as well who've been waiting for them for so many hours at New Delhi railway station. Gaurav?
These are the first visuals that our viewers are seeing. The passengers of the Bhubaneswar Delhi Rajdhani Express, the train has arrived at the New Delhi railway station. These are the first visuals that you see. Passengers getting off the train, meeting their relatives. It was perhaps one of the most harrowing experiences of their lives. Relatives, they've been through a feeling of utter helplessness. You can't do anything. You feel so meek, you feel so helpless, you feel so poor at that point of time. There's nothing that you can do in the face of these Maoists, as they said, hundreds and hundreds of Maoists and the supporters who just came, surrounded the train and asked them to get off the train.
Absolutely. It's a sense of helplessness that these passengers felt yesterday when they spent those hours in Maoist captivity. There was just 1,500 strong mobs, many of them armed. They just didn't know whether they'd get away with their lives intact. That was the kind of feeling that they had today. But what we're seeing is a sense of relief on their faces that they finally reached New Delhi. When they left Bhubaneswar, obviously they had nothing. They had no sense of the kind of predicament that they were in for and what they were going to face just few hours out of Bhubaneswar in Banshtara. Now this is something that they had not anticipated, but right now when we're looking at them, for the faces that you would be probably seeing on your screen right now, there are faces that are relieved, that they're alive, they're safe, they can actually speak to their relatives now, they can go home and just, probably hug them and say, we've escaped the biggest ordeal possible, and this was something where they were held in captivity. So this is, you're seeing some happy faces, finally we're seeing some smiling faces as well, because suddenly it's dawned upon them, it seems that, they finally arrived in New Delhi. They should have arrived close to 8 hours ago, but now finally with an 8-hour delay, they are in New Delhi and they have done that journey that they set off from Bhubaneswar to complete really.
Of course, with a feeling of utter helplessness, sheer helplessness, when hundreds and hundreds of people surrounded their train, asked them to get off. There was nobody to protect them. Where was the government there at that point of time? That's the question passengers have been asking all along? Where was the Railway Protection Force that time? Of course, passengers on board the Bhubaneswar Delhi Rajdhani thought that was a level crossing when the train slowed down suddenly yesterday near Bastala. Then they heard the drum beats, initially at a distance, and gradually it came closer. Along the tracks they saw red banners, and suddenly they heard gunshots. Not just passengers on board the Rajdhani, the nation was held hostage by the Maoists yesterday. The crisis lasted over 5 hours. Abhijit Nandi Mojumdar gets you this report from Ground Zero.
27th October 2009, 9:05 a.m. Bhubaneswar. The Bhubaneswar New Delhi Rajdhani Express chugs out of the Bhubaneswar station. On board are 1,200 passengers. It's business as usual. 2:35 p.m. Panstala. As the Rajdhani nears Kharagpur, it slows down and comes to a halt at Panstala. The driver discovers that Maoist banners and wooden logs are blocking the track. Minutes later, around 500 Naxals armed with axes, swords, bows and arrows surround the train. They smash the window panes, forcibly open the doors and take the driver and co-driver hostage. The passengers panic, they vacate the train. Meanwhile, the rebels scribble their demands all over the train. They want Chatradhar Mahato, the leader of the Maoist-backed People's Committee Against Police Atrocities, released. The incident jolts the political machinery in West Bengal and New Delhi. Railway Minister Mamata Banerjee briefs the Home Minister, who in turn speaks to West Bengal Chief Minister Buddhadev Bhattacharya. But on Ground Zero, Maoists continue to hold fort. The Railway Police and CRPF swing into action. The CRPF is told to rush around 150 Jawans to the spot. The state police also pitches in by sending their men to accompany the CRPF. But the risk of landmines and chances of ambush are high. The hijack drama continues. The rebels steal food and blankets from the train. There are no cops and relief in sight, but the passengers are not harmed.
इधर से एकदम पत्थर फेंकना शुरू कर दिया, फिर हाथों में लाठियां और वो लोहे के गंडासे वगैरह थे.
5 p.m. Panstala. Maoists release the driver and the passengers as some of them decamp into the woods. But when a large police contingent tries to reach the spot, it is ambushed near Panstala. A police driver receives bullet injuries.
इंजन का बस ऊपर कुछ आदमी चढ़ के बोलता है आप लोग उतर जाइए. हम लोग उतर गया. हमारा जो रेल का ऑकी टॉकी एंड पर्सनल मोबाइल लेके चले गए. हम लोग यहाँ पर बैठा दिया. आप लोग कोई झमेला नहीं होगा, आप चुपचाप. हम लोग जब तक बोले ना आप कुछ स्टार्ट मत.
7:20 p.m. Panstala. It takes CRPF men 5 hours to reach the spot. They surround the train to provide perimeter security. As soon as the Maoists see the troops, they leave the train and start disappearing into the jungle.
The train is safe. All passengers are safe. The CRPF and the state police have reached the spot some time ago. The area has been secured. There are no signs at the moment of any other adversary there.
10:30 p.m. Jhargram. The hijack drama lasted 5 hours. No passenger was harmed. The driver and the co-driver were also released unconditionally. Finally, the train leaves for New Delhi.
Right now at Jhargram railway station, this is the Bhubaneswar Delhi Rajdhani Express, and this train suffered, this coach suffered the maximum of damage. I'll just show you around as we enter the compartment. There you can see the way this has been damaged, badly damaged. There are no security forces here, none. Even the passengers are in a state of complete shock. Nobody can imagine this can happen in our Rajdhani Express.
It's clear that the Naxals wanted to make a point. They did it, and how? With Abhijit Nandi Majumdar in Jhargram, Shiv Arur headlines today.
And with us now is Paulami Saha at the New Delhi railway station. Also Abhijit Nandi Mojumdar, who travelled with the train, in this train, for some distance. But let me bring in Paulami. Paulami, you've been speaking to passengers, you've been speaking to their relatives. Take us through the trauma that they underwent.
Well, Gaurav, I think none of you or me, in fact, can actually try and imagine the kind of trauma that people went through when they were held in captivity by those Maoists for about 7 to 8 hours. So we will let someone who actually indeed faced those circumstances speak for himself. We have with us Mr. Prashant Mishra, who is a Delhi University professor, travelling from Bhubaneswar to New Delhi on this Rajdhani Express. Sir, ये बताइए कि वो जो 7 से 8 घंटे थे, किस तरह का मतलब क्या हो रहा था, मानसिक तौर पे किस तरह की परेशानी हो रही थी आपको?
हम लोग सारे ब्लैंक थे, कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा था कि क्या हो रहा है, क्योंकि जैसे 2:45 में हम लोग लंच करने के बाद सारे आराम कर रहे थे, अचानक ट्रेन रुकी और 400 to 500 पीपल अचानक मतलब ट्रेन की ओर आने लगे और बड़े उनके हाथों में भाला, तीर धनुष, बड़ी बड़ी लाठियाँ ये सब लेकर के। और जब हम लोगों ने, मैं B1 में था, तो हम लोगों ने जब ये दरवाज़ा नहीं खोला तो लोगों ने बड़े बड़े पत्थरों से विंडो पैन पे मारा। मैं 18 नंबर सीट पे था, उसके जस्ट बगल वाले विंडो पैन वो क्रैक हुआ। उसके बाद वेटर्स लोग आ गए, पेंट्री कार वाले, उन लोगों ने आया कि बोला वो लोग एंटर कर चुके हैं। वो लोग आए, बोले जल्दी जल्दी अपना सामान लेकर के बाहर निकलो और हम लोग ट्रेन को आग लगाने जा रहे हैं। उस समय हम लोग सारे हड़बड़ा के पूरा लगेज लिए बिना हम लोग सारे बाहर आए और बाहर 4 से 5 घंटे तक हम लोगों को कुछ नहीं पता चल रहा था, क्योंकि कोई कॉर्पोरेशन रेलवे डिपार्टमेंट की ओर से नहीं था, ना ही कोई सिक्योरिटी फोर्स था उस समय। हम लोगों को कुछ नहीं पता चल रहा था, सारे ब्लैंक माइंड होकर के वहाँ पे हम लोग थे।
सर, आपको लगा था उस वक्त जब आप उस तरह के हालात में थे कि आप सही सलामत नई दिल्ली पहुँच पाएंगे?
नो, नॉट रियली। नथिंग वाज प्रेडिक्टेबल। हम लोग कंप्लीटली ब्लैंक थे कि नहीं जाने कब क्या हो जाएगा, किसकी जान जाएगी, कौन बचेगा। It was the first time when I was coming to Delhi with my wife. So she was so fear about this thing. तो एकदम उसे कुछ भी पता नहीं चल रहा था कि क्या हो रहा है, नहीं हो रहा है।
मदद अब तक समय से पहुंची आपको लगता है?
नहीं, हम लोगों को it was 2:30 जिस समय ऐसा एपिसोड हुआ और मिलिट्री लगभग 6 बजे के आसपास वहाँ पे पहुंची। उस समय तक, उससे पहले जब ऐसा झारखंड उस समय बंद था, फिर भी कोई भी सिक्योरिटी पर्सनल खड़गपुर के बाद से कोई भी सिक्योरिटी पर्सनल ट्रेन में नहीं थे। और जो हम लोगों को मदद पहुंचा वो 5:30 के बाद से पहुंचा।
10 के करीब जब ये ट्रेन वहाँ से फाइनली निकली और अब तक जब आप फाइनली पहुंचे नई दिल्ली, इस दौरान भी कोई किसी तरह का डर था आपके मन में?
नहीं, जिस समय 7 बजे के आसपास हम लोग को वापस ट्रेन में भेज दिया गया और हम लोग बैठ गए। उस समय उसके बाद हम लोग कुछ रिलैक्स होने लगे, क्योंकि उन लोगों ने भी, जो माओवादी लोगों ने, उन लोगों ने क्लियर बोल दिया था, आप लोगों को कुछ नहीं करेंगे, हम लोगों को कुछ मैसेज पहुंचाना था, वो बस हम लोगों को करना था, आप लोगों को कुछ भी नहीं होगा। इसलिए हम लोग थोड़ा हम लोग की कॉन्फिडेंस बिल्डअप हो रही थी।
आपको काफी रिलीफ महसूस हो रहा होगा?
नो डाउट अबाउट इट। और सो फार पेंट्री कार वाले जितने भी थे, उन लोगों से हम लोगों को कॉपरेशन मिला। इवन आई कैन से कि माओवादियों ने भी हम लोगों को कॉन्फिडेंस बिल्डअप किया कि उन लोगों ने ये कह के कि आप लोगों को कुछ नहीं होगा।
So some sense of relief there, Gaurav, from the fact that the Maoists at least told them that you will not be harmed. It is not your life that is at stake. We just want to send out a message to the state, to the center, and you are just the means. So that possibly brought some sense of relief, but obviously a harrowing and a traumatic time for these passengers who have finally arrived in New Delhi.
Okay, so very clearly the Maoists wanted to send a message home. What was that message? That message was plastered all over that train. 1, they were talking about Chhatradhar Mahato. 2, the message was the Maoists are a force to reckon with. They had the government on its knees. The West Bengal government, the Railways Ministry, absolutely nobody knew how to react. They were also emboldened by the fact, the Maoists were emboldened by the fact that the West Bengal government had surrendered and they'd agreed to an exchange of prisoners when they released some Maoist cadres for the release of a police sub-inspector. Now the CPIM, they've gone on record to blame Mamta Banerjee for allegedly staging this Naxal attack. Politburo member Sitaram Yechury demanded a probe into the role of Mamta Banerjee and the Trinamool Congress. On the other hand, Mamta has demanded that the army be brought in to recover the arms from the Naxals. The CPM government has failed completely, she said.
India was held to ransom. Hours of sheer anxiety as Maoists held a Rajdhani hostage in Jhargram in West Bengal. Less than 24 hours after the nation watched in shock and awe, the political blame game has already begun. And the Trinamool is firing the first salvo.
We have already been informed, our people and ordinary people have been informed by the, in everywhere else in West Midnapur that the attack will come over Mamata Banerjee, over Trinamool, and to our workers there. And especially the rail and the rail property and rail officers will be kidnapped. This was being day before yesterday. It's a question of law and order.
But the left is not taking it lying down. They have accused Mamta of being hand in glove with the PCPA. After all, Mamta had openly supported the PCPA during the joint operations in Lalgarh.
We would like to know, because these questions need to be answered, because since the railway minister has assumed charge, the number of Maoist attacks on railway properties, on railway lines has risen sharply. What steps are being taken? What is the railways doing about this? Because it's not only a question of protection of property, but protection of lives of thousands, lakhs of commuters who use the rail. Now to stop it on the track is a very difficult proposition, because if the speeds at which they are traveling, even if they see an obstruction on the track, they cannot possibly apply emergency brakes without causing damage to the train. But here it stopped very normally.
Railway security should be strengthened much more than what it is today.
But Didi has a stock reply to offer.
The law and order situation. इसी के लिए हम लोगों ने इसको टेक अप किया है होम मिनिस्ट्री का साथ में. हमारा डिपार्टमेंट वेस्ट बंगाल गवर्नमेंट वेस्ट बंगाल में हुआ है. वेस्ट बंगाल गवर्नमेंट का साथ और होम मिनिस्टर के साथ भी कांटेक्ट किया.
The governments both at the centre and in the state were caught napping when Maoists struck at Jhargram. An entire nation was held to ransom by those challenging the authority of the state. Yet all that the Netas are interested in doing is scoring political points.
पिछले 5 साल सरकार ने नक्सलवादियों के खिलाफ ठोस कारगर रणनीति नहीं अपनाई. इसका परिणाम है कि आज जगह जगह 10 राज्यों में 167 जिलों में वो आतंक का पर्याय बन चुके हैं, आतंक की कार्रवाइयां कर रहे हैं.
आज जब हर प्रदेश के स्तर पे, केंद्र के स्तर पे इतनी सारी स्कीम्स हैं, इतने सारे सुविधाएं हैं, उनको वापस मेन स्ट्रीम में आने के लिए तो इस प्रकार की हिंसा पूरी तरह से निंदनीय है, कंडेमनेबल है.
At a time a comprehensive strategy needs to be formulated to tackle the Maoist menace, our politicians would rather engage in a slugfest. Less than 24 hours have passed since the horrifying ordeal of 600-odd passengers came to an end, and we are already playing into the hands of Maoists by engaging in political bickering that can only embolden their resolve to further challenge a divided Indian state. With Kanhaiya Sharma and Rohit Singh, Paulami Saha in Delhi for Headlines Today.
And joining me from Kolkata is Avijit Nandi Mojumdar. Avijit, this is a national problem, but look at how the railways and the CPM are trying to pass the buck. They're just not waking up to the magnitude of the crisis.
Absolutely, Gaurav. It's widely believed it's a case of political mudslinging match that is going on at the moment, whereas Mamta's initial knee-jerk reaction was that it's handiwork of the CPM. Now remember, Mamta based her observations on the fact that the entire area surrounded that place is used to be a CPIM stronghold. Of course, people have converted into PCPA, but there are still CPIM leaders who have their sway on that place. So she based her observations on that. When I spoke to her, she said that's a CPIM stronghold, but definitely that was PCPA, definitely that was People's Militia who owned up the responsibility, and I don't think, a neutral observer do not think that the CPM was anyway connected with that. On the other hand, the CPM has gone on record saying that the railway ministry has completely failed in providing security to the passengers inside the Rajdhani Express, whereas when they look at their own backyard, there was no GRP, there was no state police, and there was no security on the railway track. Now, remember, government railway police is a state department, the Department of State Home Department, and the state government has completely surrendered.
The state government completely surrendered yet again. They had surrendered in the past when for the exchange of a policeman, they released 21 Maoist cadres, men and women. They've done that yet again this time. 500 men, Abhijit Nandi Mojumdar, coming together. 500 men. They would have taken some time to assemble them, to bring them to this spot. Very, very clearly here, the state intelligence machinery failed completely. But when the Naxals recently beheaded a policeman in Taliban style in Jharkhand, the nation was outraged. The Maoists were called India's Taliban. The projected image of the Naxals as a people's army took a severe beating. Within a couple of weeks, the Naxals are trying to go in for an image makeover, calling an abducted policeman a prisoner of war, holding up a train for over 5 hours. They're cocking a snook at the state. Look at the graffiti on the train. The attack was a media coup for the Maoists.
Chatradhar Mahato is not a criminal. Chatradhar Mahato is a good man. For the Maoists and their supporters, taking over the Bhubaneswar Delhi Rajdhani Express for over 5 hours was a publicity coup. They held the train and the entire nation to ransom. As the centre and the state floundered for solutions, the Maoists made a point. They brought the state down to its knees. The railways, the West Bengal government and the Union Home Ministry appeared desperate. The Maoists had come well prepared. They put up red banners along the tracks. They spoke to the passengers on board the train, explained their cause. Their aim was not to antagonize the passengers, but a show of strength.
वो आदमी कुछ खराब नहीं थे, उन्होंने कोई खराब बिहेवियर नहीं किया, बहुत अच्छा आराम से प्यार से हमें अंदर से यही हमारे को कहा कि आप अपना सामान लेके नीचे उतर.
The Maoists and their supporters gave interviews highlighting Chatradhar Mahato's case. Some went to the extent of saying, till a few months ago, Mahato was an aide of the Railways Minister Mamta Banerjee, how he was suddenly a terrorist. Analysts say that the Maoists were emboldened by the recent prisoner swap with the West Bengal government. That saw the state government buckle and once again prove their strength. The centre says using the armed forces against the Maoists is their last option.
Deployment of the armed forces for internal security is the last resort, last resort. But we are convinced that all other agencies are finding it difficult. As a last resort only, we will deploy armed forces in not only in Naxalite operation, all other areas.
The centre had, however, asked the NSG to be on standby.
इंटरवेंशंस के लिए प्रैक्टिसेस करती है, चाहे एयरक्राफ्ट है, ट्रेन है, मेट्रो है, हम अलग अलग किस्म के जो भी इंटरवेंशन की जरूरत होती है हम अपनी फोर्सेस को उसकी प्रैक्टिसेस करवाते हैं.
Experts say after the brutal beheading of the Jharkhand police officer Francis Induai, the Maoists want to present a new, more acceptable face. Leaving the passengers unhurt is part of the strategy.
Naxal movement has survived so far on public support, but their off-late aggression has shaken the faith of people in them. So Rajdhani hijack episode was a desperate attempt by Naxal to regain the lost ground. With Danish Siddiqui, Atish Rasav in Delhi for Headlines Today.
The Naxals are a national security issue. The Prime Minister has called them the biggest threat to India's security. Politicians better wake up and treat this as a national security issue and not a law and order problem. Well, that's all we have for you on Ground Zero tonight, but news and updates continue on Headlines Today. Thank you for watching and stay with us.